Hello, everyone who's back this week, and I hope you all are, plus a few new followers of this poetry reading program. This is Morning Jim, and this is May 13th, 2023, and Mother's Day is coming up, and it might be today if you're listening today. And I want to apologize after noticing that I was spending a lot of time recently with biographies of poets and explaining who divorced whom, and then she stuck her head in an oven to kill herself. Wow. That may be more interesting to biographers than to people who just like to read or hear poetry. So, today, that's what we're going to do. We're just going to read poems and not worry about any dreary events or world-shaking events, for that matter. I'm going to read you two poems by Billy Collins, one by Marc Petersen, and then two that I wrote. None of these are specifically for Mother's Day, but some of them are humorous, and moms like that. At least mine always did. Let's start with a pair of poems by Billy Collins. And they're going to come from this book that I'm holding in my hand, if I can get it up here correctly. It's called Sailing Alone Around the Room. Billy might have said around the world, but Billy's too shy and humble to do that. But he makes his point. The first one I'm going to read by Billy Collins is called The Rival Poet. The column of your book titles, always introducing your latest one, looms over me like Roman architecture. It is longer than the name of an Italian countess, longer than this poem will probably be. Etched on the head of a pin, my own production would leave room for the Lord's Prayer and many dancing angels. But no matter. In my revenge daydream, I am the one poised on the marble staircase, high above the crowded ballroom. A retainer in livery announces me, and the Contessa Maria Teresa Isabella Veronica Moltilire Eleganza de Bella Ferrari. You are the one below, fidgeting in your rented tux, with some local Cindy hanging all over you. This was Billy's idea of a funny poem and what he would like to say to a rival poet. I'm sorry, but I never had the idea that poets were rivals in that sense. After all, it's hard enough to get people to read poetry or listen to it. Why would poets want to fight with each other? But they're only human, aren't they? Yeah. Okay. Oh, there's another poem by Billy Collins. I don't want to forget to read it because it's of a similar genre. And its title is Another Reason Why I Don't Keep a Gun in the House. The neighbor's dog will not stop barking. He's barking the same high rhythmic bark that he barks every time they leave the house. They must switch him on their way out. The neighbor's dog will not stop barking. I close all the windows in the house and put on a Beethoven symphony, full blast. But I can still hear him muffled under the music, barking, barking, barking. And now I can see him sitting in the orchestra, his head raised confidently, as if Beethoven had included a part for barking dog. When the record finally ends, he is still barking, sitting there in the oboe section, barking, his eyes fixed on the conductor, who is entreating him with his baton, while the other musicians listen in respectful silence to the famous barking dog solo, that endless coda that first established Beethoven as an innovative genius. There it is. Billy Collins. I love that guy. He's probably my favorite of the modern poets. Well, let's take another example of that sort of poem, which goes from the sublime to the ridiculous in some ways. It's by a poet named Marc Petersen. I won't say anything more about his poetic chops. But it's entitled, "What Would I Do?" What would I do if my wife were to have an affair? I would walk to my toolbox in the garage, take from it my 12-inch flathead screwdriver and my hickory-handled hammer, the one that helped me build 3 redwood fences, and I would hammer out the pins in all the door hinges in the house, and I would pull off all the doors, and I would stack them in the backyard, and I would empty all the sheets from the linen closet, and especially the flannels we have slept between for 19 winters. And I would empty all the towels, too. The big, heavy white towels she bought on Saturdays at Target, and the red bath towels we got for our wedding, and which we have never used. And I would unroll the aluminum foil from its box and carry all the pots and pans from the cupboard to the backyard and lay this one long sheet of aluminum foil over all our pots and pans, and I would dump all the silverware from the drawer onto the driveway, and I would push my motorcycle over and let all its gas leak out. And I would leave my Jeep running at the curb until its tank was empty or its motor blew up. And I would turn the TV up full blast and open all the windows. And I would turn the stereo up full blast with Beethoven's Ninth Symphony on it, Schiller's Ode to Joy really blasting, and I would strip our bed. And I would lie on our stripped bed, and I would see our maple budding out the window. I would see our maple budding out our window, the hummingbird feeder hanging from its lowest bough. And my cat would jump up to see what was the matter with me. And I would tell her. Of course I would tell her. From her, I hold nothing back. I hope you like that as much as I did. This is from Poetry 180, which was a book of poems actually collected by Billy Collins when he was the Poet Laureate of the United States, and then published as an anthology of contemporary poems. Great book of poetry, Poetry 180. If you haven't bought that book, you may want to think about it. Okay, now, up next is a poem that I wrote in a weak moment, I guess. After I moved here from Topeka, Kansas, and that poem and this poem has to do with the remodeling of one of the bathrooms here at this house. And so the title of the poem, of course, is After the Plumber Left. After the Plumber Left, by James Ransom. I tried out the new, what shall we call it, powder room, loo anglais, restroom, plain loo. The new wallpaper was engaging to the eye. The toilet flushed promptly and quietly. So the new marble sink holding antique brass fittings was my next stop. I turned on the left faucet. Handsome it was, and let the water run over my hands. It was cold, and then colder. Oh, the Arctic cold, still cold after a count of 30. Turn it off! My blue fingers moved to the right faucet. I risked only a single digit this time, but the water was quickly warm, and my hands soon red and clean. Oh, new washroom! How many fingers will your waters freeze before the taps are lettered? Cold left, hot right. Please. I hope you enjoyed that poem. It's based, as you can obviously tell, on a real event. And it's called After the Plumber Left. Okay. Now, yeah, here we go. The next poem is also one of mine, and it's called Fall Window. I always enjoy looking out of the windows, both in the spring and the fall, to see what color fantasy is next. Leaves yellow like large slices of fromage fall, flip-flopping beneath the catalpa tree, all in one day, leaving bereft the brown pods hanging as ornaments throughout the winter, suspecting they have a purpose next year, not knowing what it might be. Catalpa seems sad, looking at Dancing Lady just ahead, whose leaves are green, even after 3 nights of worsening frost. Still green, limbs drooping, awaiting the tremor that makes them waltz, and maybe shimmy if it is a bebop breeze. Hemlocks around her to watch her jazzy limbs jumping as weather orchestras strike up, led by the jays who sit waiting in her crown, anxious to announce the next set. Well, I promised I wouldn't try to explain poems tonight. And all I will say about this one is that a dancing lady is a kind of tree with swooping, falling limbs that come down to the ground and giving it a pyramidal shape. And the reason, of course, it's called a dancing lady is because that's what it looks like. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Okay. There you are, poetry fans. One poem after another with no biographies or explanatory portions. Let me know if you like more or less history, or more or less biography with the poems. For me, it is fun either way. But you are the audience. This is for you. So any guidance you give me, I will probably follow. I don't promise. That's it for this week. Hope you will go to the YouTube next week and join me again. Bye now.